In a world where hustle culture collides with wellness warnings and workplace demands keep evolving, how do we stay sharp without burning out? How do we navigate the endless stream of wellness trends while actually getting results? This is the Work and Wellness Podcast, and I'm your host, Ange Davis. Drawing from my own journey of wins, stumbles, and honest revelations, I'll be bringing you raw, unfiltered conversations with experts and inspiring guests who've been there, lived it, and found a better way. Together, we'll cut through the noise and workshop what it really means to be well in today's workplace. No more choosing between success and sanity. No more sacrificing health for achievement. Whether you're struggling with burnout, searching for purpose, or simply ready to work smarter, not harder, you're in the right place. This is real talk about real solutions for real people. Let's get into it. Hello, friends. Welcome to the show. As this episode goes live, we're sitting right on that edge between years. And it's that space where 1 year hasn't quite gone yet and the next year hasn't fully arrived. So hopefully it's a space where you've got a little bit of mental space, some stillness, and a way to just take a moment to pause and reflect. This episode is all about goal setting for the new year. But what it's not about is setting 1,048 goals, and it's definitely not about becoming a completely new version of yourself by February. It's really about practical, intentional goal setting that supports your well-being, your energy, and also the life that you want to live. Liam and I do this every year on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, just depending, to sit down and really think about what it is that we want the year to come to look like. So if you can, I suggest sitting down. You might want to pause this, grab a notebook if you feel so called to do, and just write down some of the headlines that you might want to partake for your planning for the year ahead. There's no right way to do this. It's just about taking what feels right for you. And these are some of the things that Liam and I will do every year to make sure that we feel like we are moving forward. And I want to be honest too, we don't hit all of our goals every single year. I'd say we hit about 90% of them, 80 to 90% every year. But to me, if we hit all of them, it means we didn't push hard enough with our goals for the year prior. It's a really good way to continue crafting the type of life that you want and to not just let all of the years mesh into one. So when you look back and you just think, oh God, I don't know what year that was or what did I even do last year? So it just helps to make sure that every year feels really intentional and that you are moving towards what we call your rich life. This doesn't necessarily mean financially rich. It means energetically, emotionally rich. What is the type of life that feels rich to you? And it's going to be different to every single person. All right. So before we talk about the year ahead, we need to honor the year that was 2025. What a wild year. I don't know about the energy of this year for all of you, but it was a wild ride, that's for sure. But we often rush into what do I want? What should I do differently? Without ever pausing and asking, what just happened? So let's start there. Let's start by reflecting on the year that was and just gently reflecting on the past 12 months. I don't want you to reflect on that time with judgment at all, but just with curiosity. And you might like to just pause the episode after each prompt. You can write down the headers if you like, and you can do this as we go through the episode, or you might just want to write down the headers and then go and sit in a space and do your reflection and your planning all at once. So I want you to think, first of all, first question is, what went well this year? And I don't want you to just think about the obvious wins, but the quiet, smaller wins. Maybe the moments where you showed up when you didn't want to, or the things that you navigated well that might have derailed you once before. So asking yourself, what am I genuinely proud of? And where did I grow, even if it was uncomfortable? So just to repeat, what went well this year? Think about the small things or the ways that you have grown as a person. What are you proud of and where did you grow even if you felt uncomfortable? And then I want you to think about the second part. What was challenging? So what went well? What was challenging? What stretched you? What drained you? What felt heavier or harder than expected? This is really important because challenge leaves crumbs of information for us. And when we feel challenged, it becomes information for us on where we might need to work on some things moving forward or some areas that we might want to invest in. Or that challenge might have led to exponential growth as well. So sometimes it can really help to look back and think, was that a challenge because I was growing to my next level? In which case, great. Or was it a challenge because there are some skills, either hard skills or soft skills that I need to develop as an individual that's going to make something like that easier for me to tackle in the future? And then I want you to think about what gave you energy throughout the year. You might even want to open up your calendar and just flick through week to week, see all the different things you did and remind yourself how you felt. So when did you feel most like yourself? What activities, people, or environments lifted you up? And where did time seem to just move differently in a positive way? Time just passed you by because you were so in flow and engrossed in what you were doing. Energy is really important data as well. So the 3 headline questions: what went well this year? What was challenging? And what gave you energy? Now we're going to do a bit of a values check-in. So before we set goals, we really need a compass. And often our values won't change year to year, but sometimes they do depending on what part or stage of life you're in. So the compass for our goal setting are values. They're not goals. They're really the way that we want to live while we're working towards our goals to make sure we're staying true to ourselves. So some of the things you might want to ask yourself to ascertain your values are: what values felt most alive for me this year? Which ones felt neglected? And what do I want to honor more next year? So some types of words for values that you might resonate with, they might be adventure, presence, growth, freedom, connection, health, family, courage, calm, authenticity. Those are some of the things that you might think about when you think of values. Now, if you want something to help you work through your values, if it's an exercise that you haven't done previously, I actually have on my Instagram, mind.your.grit. If you click on the link in bio, there is a guide there to a free values exercise. So you can jump onto that. It'll be delivered to your inbox and it will help you go through and guide what your values look like. It's a really, really helpful values exercise. So taking some time to sit down and thinking about what your values are. So first we reflect on the year that was, then we check in with our values. If you've already got strong values that you know the words, do they still feel right and aligned? If not, a little exercise to figure out your values. Then what I like to do is choose an intention or word for the year. So rather than setting dozens of goals, I really love creating an intention or a word that everything anchors back to for the year. So all of your goals should really be anchored to this word. And it becomes the filter through which everything for that year goes through. And also a question you can return to when your decisions feel noisy is: your word or intention should answer, how do I want to move through this year? And then as things come up through the year, you filter them through this word. And if it feels misaligned to that word, then it's just a point of inflection around, do I want to move forward with that thing? So some examples might be adventure. My word for this year, or my intention for 2025, was giving it a crack. And I absolutely did that. There were many, many times when I thought, I don't know how to do this. Can I do this? Am I capable? And I kept reminding myself, just give it a crack. There is nothing that needs to be tied to it other than giving it a crack. So that was my word or my intention for 2025. My intention for 2026 is consistency, because for my business, I want to make sure that I am growing really consistently. I also want to make sure all of the really strong foundations are in place to help it grow. From a health perspective, I want to stay consistent. So there are lots of elements of my life that I want to come back to consistency with because of the exponential growth that I had in 2025, but also, it was quite a tumultuous year in many ways with my dad passing away, having to cut our trip short with a family emergency. So 2026, if you're listening, I'd like some consistency this year. Some other words that might feel right for you. It could be growth. It could be brave, spacious, focused, playful, adventure, grounded. Take some time to sit in with yourself and really think about what you want your next year to look like. This isn't about restriction though. So if you get a partway through the year and you just think, you know what, this isn't resonating, pause. You're not stuck with it, right? You can change at any time. So you do a reflection of 2025. Then we check what our values are, make sure that we're aligned, and then we choose a word, a sentiment, a little sentence that we want to focus on for the year ahead. Now, what I want you to do is a bit of a visualization. So if you're not driving or walking, I encourage you to close your eyes or soften your gaze, and I want you to imagine that it is this date that you're listening in 2026. Or if you're listening to this early in the new year, a year from now. You're waking up on the same date, and I want you to ask yourself, how do I feel in my body? What does my energy feel like? What does a typical day look like? How am I working? And how am I living? So just thinking about how you're feeling in your body, what your energy feels like, thinking about what a typical day looks like, how are you working, and how are you living? And I want you to notice what really jumps out for you. There might have been one of those questions that really sat with you and you got a really strong visual image. And I want you to think what doesn't matter to you. Now, the future version doesn't have to be perfect, but it really is just about being aligned with how you want to show up a year from now. Maybe that future you has made choices, small, consistent choices that has led you to where you are a year from now, where you want to be, having hit the goals that you set. Now, visualization is incredibly powerful and it can be seen as a little bit woo-woo, but there is a lot of science to back up visualization. Some of the best athletes in the world use visualization. Tom Brady, the NFL quarterback, uses visualization. All of the Red Bull pilots use visualization. People who do ski jump, so Alyssa Camplin, who is Australian gold medalist on the downhill ski jump in the Olympics, she used visualization. So our brain actually doesn't know the difference between visualization and actually doing the thing, which is pretty crazy. So visualization alone can create new neural pathways. And if you don't believe me, I want you to just imagine for a moment that you're standing at your kitchen. So just imagine your kitchen. You're standing there and you've got a whole bowl of lemons in front of you. You've got a knife and you pick up a lemon and you cut into that lemon. You cut it into quarters and then you take 1/4 of that lemon, you lift it up and you squirt that lemon onto your tongue. Now, if you visualize well enough, you will feel the sides of your throat really start to feel like you squeeze that sour lemon on there, and you'll actually produce more saliva. So that activity alone shows you the power of visualization when we do it well. So think to yourself, you're standing here a year from today's date that you're listening to this podcast. You're thinking how you feel in your body, what your energy feels like, what a typical day looks like for you, how are you working, and how are you living? All right, we've done our year reflection. So we reflected on 2025, figured out our values for the year ahead for 2026. Maybe we've come up with our word, our sentence, our intention for the year to come. And we've done a visualization around what it's going to look like a year from now. So what is the framework or the structure that supports your goal setting for the year ahead? Now, this is something that I shared all the way a year ago when I first started this podcast that Liam and I do, and this is a structure that we still use. So the first thing we do, we break the year into 4 small breaks. It's really important because otherwise every week and weekend just rolls from one to the next. So at the start of the year, we get a 12-month calendar out and we put in 4 small breaks throughout the year. Rather than waiting till you're exhausted, Rather than waiting till work allows, they are already locked in the calendar. They might be long weekends, short trips. It might be a staycation at home that's intentional. It might be a digital break. Whatever it is, it helps to break up the year ahead. So put those 4 short breaks in. One of them might be a long break, but every year have 4 intentional breaks, even if it's a staycation at home, and pop that in the calendar. So that's your first one. Break the year into 4 small breaks. Then 1 year defining hard thing. So alongside rest, I also believe in choosing 1 year defining hard thing for the year. Something that stretches you, it challenges you, it requires commitment for you to work towards it. Not 10 things, just 1 thing. It might be a physical goal, a personal project, a professional stretch, but it must be something that scares you a little bit. And the key is that you choose it consciously. So 2025, our year defining hard thing was running an ultra marathon. Truly the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But we did it and we crossed the finish line together and we still have our medals, which I am so incredibly proud of. So 2025 is the year we ran an ultra marathon. So when we are 50, 60, 70, 80, we can look back and be like, oh, 2025, that was the year we ran the ultra marathon. It helps to create something that you remember that year by, so they don't all fade into each other. But it also gives you something to continue working towards. We had to learn new skills. We invested time and effort and energy, and we failed at many things. Many runs we failed, and we came back and we still did it. And it really teaches you that you can truly do anything when you put your mind to it. So for 2026, I'm weighing up 2 things. Either I'm going to learn piano, or Liam and I will do a Camino, which is like a long pilgrimage walk. So the one we're looking at is 400 kilometers over about 20 days. So it'll be walking from Tuscany to Rome, and you walk between 20 and 30 kilometers a day. So I'm not sure which one we'll do yet. Maybe I'll do both. No, that's against the rules. It should just be one thing. So I'm not sure which one yet, but 1 year defining hard thing. It's a great way to work towards something in the year and have something that you feel like you're developing. I prefer it to not be professional because it allows you to have a bit of a hobby and, spend your weekends consciously in a way that works towards that year defining thing. So 4 mini breaks, 1 year defining hard thing, and then 1 to 2 work goals and 1 to 2 personal goals. Now, these might be overarching and then you create smaller, more achievable goals underneath, but it is really important we don't have a million goals because it's really hard for us as humans to try and focus on too many things at once. If you achieve your goals early, then set some additional goals as the year goes on. It's a better way to do it than to try and set a million goals up front and then get overwhelmed on which ones that you want to tackle. You might even want to, on your 4 mini breaks, take some time to reflect back on your goals. How are you working towards them? Do you need to set new ones or additional ones? A few things on those goals. Just ensuring that they're SMART. So specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So SMART goals are really important because if you just say, I want to become a runner, what does that look like? So it should be specific. I want to be able to run 20 kilometers by X date, and I want to do it in this amount of time. So that's how you would change that. It's really important that you write them down. So when you write down a goal, you are twice as likely to achieve it than if you didn't write it down. And if you want to amplify that further, if you share it with someone, you're exponentially more likely to achieve it. So there's interesting research on goals from Harvard that says twice as likely to achieve it if you write it down. That is exponentially amplified if you share it with someone because it creates accountability. So closing summary. As we close the episode, I just want to bring the whole process together so that we can recap on what it is that you might want to focus on for your goal planning for 2026. First, we look back to move forward, reflecting on the year that's been, what went well, what was challenging, and where our energy actually came from. That reflection gives us insight for the next year. Next, we check in on our values because goals without values look good on paper, but they might not feel right and connected to us. They become the compass for the year ahead. So if you've already got a clear set of values that you work towards, just check in on those, make sure they still feel right, because they can change over time. Or if you don't, jump onto my Instagram bio. You can click the link in bio and get your values guide. From there, you'll set an intention or word for the year. It's not to limit us, but it's just to guide our decision making and keep us anchored when things might get busy or frantic or unclear. We step into the future for a moment. We do a bit of a visualization on what we want to look like on this exact date at this exact time, 12 months from now. And finally, a way to structure our year. 4 small breaks booked in at the very start of the year. Get them in the calendar now. Book them like a meeting with a CEO. They should not move. Choose your one hard year-defining thing. Be really intentional about it. Something that stretches you. And then 1 to 2 personal goals and 1 to 2 work goals. That's it. Not additional pressure. It's really about creating clarity and alignment and purposeful growth. And if you hold on to that and this process, everything else unfolds from here. You know, some people call this manifestation. Really, for me, it's about writing down what you want to achieve, and then naturally you will take the action steps to get to where you want to go, particularly if you have those regular quarterly reflection points on your quarterly breaks, and if you share it with someone to hold you accountable. So if this process has resonated with you, I do encourage you to come back to it throughout the year, especially as things feel busy, as a way to check in and see how you're going. The answers don't actually change as often as we would think, but we just sometimes forget to listen. So it is really important that we continue to check in. So thank you for listening today. I hope that 2026 feels grounded and spacious and full of the right kind of growth for what you intend. And I would love to hear everyone's big year-defining hard thing. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me on Work and Wellness. If today's episode resonated with you, remember, someone in your network might need to hear this too. Share it with a colleague or friend who could use these insights. I'd love to keep the conversation going, so find us on Instagram at Mind Your Grit, where we share daily tips and continue these discussions. And if you found value in today's episode, please take time to rate and review the show. It makes such a huge difference and helps other people discover conversations they might really need. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Each week, we're building a community of people who believe that success and well-being go hand in hand. You can find the notes, resources, and links from today's episode at mindyourgrit.com. This is Work and Wellness with Ange Davis. Your work matters, your wellness matters, and this is where it all comes together. See you next week.